Today we're talking about Damn Lucky by Kevin Maurer. The history and the lore of the 8th Air Force have always fascinated me. Their reputation as a tremendous warfighting armada under the leadership of generals like Doolittle and Eaker, and how they could send over 2,000 bombers and 1,000 fighters on a single mission over Germany was an incredible feat. In 1943, the U.S. Army Air Corps waged a brutal war against Germany and occupied Europe. The object of the attacks was to destroy the German economy and bring the Nazi infrastructure to a grinding halt. The mighty 8th at that time were based in England with the B-17 flying fortresses as their primary weapon. Now, John Luckadoo joined the Army Air Corps as a B-17 bomber pilot. Allied command decided that U.S. bombers would conduct daylight, high-altitude, precision bombing of German targets, while the Brits would conduct the nighttime saturation target bombing. The U.S. bomber personnel had to complete 25 missions before they were allowed to return to the U.S. Their losses were extreme, with an average life expectancy of 10 bombing runs or less. Throughout this story, the reader can feel the terror of what it was like to fly over targets engulfed by German anti-aircraft and Luftwaffe fighter planes attacking them in a hellacious cloud of gunfire. Lucky's mission took him to Berlin over sub-bases in France and V-1 rocket sites. At times, reading, I felt like I was right there with Lucky and the crew. This was so much more than just another World War II war story. It was the story of men on the front line and their families at home. It was about men unfit to command and others rising to greatness in desperation and throughout intense hardship. This book is a harrowing tale of courage in the face of the most horrendous circumstances a sadist could imagine. The odds against a B-17 pilot completing 25 missions were so high, arguably be made that this job was one of the most dangerous in the war. This book takes a deep dive into the horrors of war, the conditions of the pilots, and the mental trauma faced by everyone. The author's descriptive writing style clearly presents the true events. The afterword was probably one of the best parts of the book. Reading Lucky's own story was heartbreaking and incredible. The prospect of being shot or burning alive is bad enough. But then add in tens of thousands of feet and an unpressurized airplane with not much protection from the many threats, and then mentally surviving 24 to 30 missions is near unfathomable. This was an easy to read story. It sometimes felt too easy to read, almost as if it was written to be made into a TV series or a movie. I don't know the author's relationship to the veteran, but I suspect that the author filled in some of the details that had faded from his memory. I was kind of hoping for a more personal and detailed account of the USAF aircrew. Reading this book made me feel grateful that there's still writers out there digging out stories from the greatest generation. We'll never forget their bravery, their heroism, and their sacrifices. I try to put myself in the place of one of those pilots and comprehend the personal courage it must have taken to climb into that plane every day, knowing that your chances of you and your 9 crew returning alive were less than a coin toss. But yet, these men did, not once, but until they completed 25 missions, or more likely until their luck ran out. I can't recommend this book enough. It really touched me deeply, and my rating is a 5 out of 5 stars. Lucky's story was incredible, and I see why it's so popular. Highly recommended from me. The highest recommendation I can give. That's all from me. I'm Griffin from Legends of History, and thanks for listening.